Welcome to Sunset News. In this program, we bring you news, story of the day, economic indicators, weather forecast, as well as sport. I am Ashwin Berry. Now in Sunset News tonight, the Landless People's Movement's application to the High Court for the annulment of a default judgment in favor of two-party members and former councillors of the Mariental City Council was rejected on Friday. In the civil case where Mr. Daniel Gariseb and Mrs. Rogeta Hack dragged the LPM to court after withdrawing the above as board members in March 2021. Gariseb and Hack claimed that the decision did not follow fair processes. The judgment was passed on Friday. Namibia's veteran journalists say the industry is making progress in transitioning to a more digital system. This year's celebration of Press Freedom Day with the theme Journalism Under Digital Siege will spotlight how recent technological developments like monitoring surveillance, privacy abuses, and online harassment impact journalism and freedom of expression. The NBC's Chief News and Programming Officer, Menesia Muinjo, said at face value one would believe Namibian media houses have transitioned as they have all in some way, shape or form taken up space in the digital landscape. But she was quick to add that one should dig deeper. We are not moving fast enough. She said most media houses are struggling with infrastructure. She said some media houses have limited resources such as good drones for better coverage of live events. Muinjo said journalists also need to upgrade themselves academically by investing in smartphones. A water requirement of 24.4 million cubic meters is currently needed for the capital. In addition, Windhoek groundwater is to be artificially recharged by 2.8 million cubic meters. This equals a total of 27.2 million cubic meters for the city in 2021-22. Windhoek's water is secured via 3 supply sources, with the bulk, a total of 77% last year, supplied by NamWater. The Windhoek Gorianga Operating Company recovers and supplies drinking water from treated wastewater, which accounted for around 21% of the water supply in 2021. And the third water source is the Windhoek Aquifer, production wells that help supplement water for the city during emergencies such as particularly severe droughts. The aquifer contributed 2% to Windhoek's water supply last year. Both the aquifer and these emergency sources can only be used for a limited time. According to the City of Windhoek's Department of Infrastructure, Water and Technical Services, government is currently looking at a permanent solution for a reliable water source for the central areas of Namibia. These include sources in the far north, perennial rivers, as well as water from the coast or even from the far south, for example, Neckartal Dam. The Namibian Defence Force is on a mission to strengthen institutional mechanisms to address gender inequalities within its ranks, as well as increase the involvement of women at all decision-making levels, peace processes, and conflict resolutions. This resolve was delivered at the NDF's 5-day gender policy validation workshop that took place in Swakopmund recently. It was revealed at the workshop that gender empowerment is one of the challenges faced by the ministry, considering that the number of women were too little compared to their male counterparts, and that there was still some resistance amongst members that are uncomfortable with the empowerment of women. That brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, in our story of the day tonight, Yana Marie Smith chats to climate justice activist Verushka Dumeni. Stay with us.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag #paybackthemoney.
Now, on the backdrop of the Energy Conference and several other climate-involved events, Yana Marie Smith talks to climate justice activist Verushka Dumeni. Here's their conversation.
Hi, Verushka. Thank you so much for joining me today. First of all, can you tell me a little bit about your activism and where it comes from?
Hi, Jana. Thank you for having me. So, well, my activism really comes from my upbringing. I grew up in the village, and what you learn there growing up is that you treat your environment with respect, because really that's where we depend directly on our environment with subsistence farming and all. And once I came into to live in the city and also went to school, it's a very different way that you are taught about the environment there. In fact, you are taught more subjects that are focused on how you can capitalize the environment, how you can really exploit the environment for economic gains, whether it's in medicine. I mean, every single subject you are taught has to do with some form of exploiting of the environment for the benefit of humankind. And that is all good if it's done sustainably. Unfortunately, in today's age, we're not doing it sustainably. And now with this online sort of freedom that we have, I was exposed to a lot of environmental activists and environmental advocates, and I realized that it's not enough that I, on a personal level, respect and treat the environment with decency, but I have to stand up for the environment, and I have to stand up against a lot of activities that are really violating human rights, violating environmental laws, and disregarding environmental health.
You joined the March in Windhoek that took place not only in celebration of Earth Day, but also in protest against Recon Africa.
The protest was emerging of celebrating Earth Day, which is something that is really, it's one of those days that are important now more than ever, because we're in a climate crisis. But it was also highlighting our local problem of the mismanagement of natural resources, right? By allowing activities that are posing such a huge risk on the environment and the livelihoods of the local communities there. And some of the main concerns we have with Recon Africa is the disregard for national and international standards, the disregard for human rights, right? And the major risk that they pose to the environment. I mean, really having any activity in a basin, a water basin that leads to a delta and provides water for over 1 million people, that is a major risk already. In addition to that, Recon Africa continues to, their activities are giving us more and more concern, meaning that even though they write that they are doing their activities with the best environmental practices as possible, really the reality says something else. At the beginning, they were supposed to consult indigenous communities. That's really one of the first things that you do before you get an environmental impact assessment clearance. You're supposed to go to the communities that are there, and you're supposed to inform them what your plans are and ask for permission from traditional authorities, right? This company only asked for that permission and started consulting local communities after there was a public uproar. And there are other laws, especially human rights laws, because again, we are in a climate crisis. And as a global South country with already a dry climate, we are so naturally vulnerable to the effects of the climate crisis. And so if you're coming to a climate vulnerable nation, which holds water as it's a precious resource, and here you are acting out an activity which poses a huge risk to their water security, that's you disregarding human rights, because there's a right to clean water. There is a right to a healthy environment. And this company is trying to disregard that. And of course, they're not acting in isolation. They're acting with the help and idleness of our government.
Do you think after quite some time of bad press, ongoing activism, international press and local press, is government hearing you? Is there any indication that they're hearing you?
There's some indication that they're hearing us. One of them is after following public uproar, whether it's that Recon Africa started drilling for water boreholes without a water permit from the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Reform. Only after that did Minister Kalle Schleitwein come out and declare that they really never contacted him for a water permit, right? Which is sad, because that is not supposed to be done after the public reveals it. This ministry is supposed to take the initiative and make sure that the company follows the right laws, right? we've gotten a lot of support from the MP, from a Canadian MP, who has come out and said that they're very disappointed that a Canadian company is carrying out these things and disregarding human rights. So there are wins here and there, but the government is not acting with as much urgency as we need. We are calling for a moratorium because this company has already broken so many laws, right? And so they need to be completely reassessed, not continue with their activities. And only after really civil society organizations stood up and highlighted that our environmental minister cannot tolerate this, right? It's against what they're standing for. Only after that, that not only the Ministry of Environment, also Ministry of Mines and the company declare that, okay, there will not be any fracking. And this is, again, very sad, because had we not stood up, this would have been allowed to go on. And this is the case for many of our national laws and the international laws that are supposed to regulate these kinds of activities. It's the people on the ground are taking the initiative to investigate and criticize this company, not the government.
That was our story of the day. Now, in economic news after the break, we look at how household budgets are under pressure as well as the economic indicators. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's get into your economic news story just before the indicators. Elevated food and fuel prices coupled with rising interest rates will keep household budgets under pressure. Simone Storm expects another 75 basis points to hike in the repo rate before the end of 2022, which would lift the prime rate from 8% to 8.75%. Rising interest rates will likely weigh on demand for credit. Credit extended to the private sector grew by 2.1% in March compared to 2.8% year-on-year in February, moving below its 6-month average of 2.3%. Let's have a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar strengthened against the euro and decreased against the US dollar, pound and Chinese yuan. Very little movement on the NSX, but Trustco Group Holdings is up 5.6%. The local index is down 0.03%, while the overall index is up by 1.21%. Gold and platinum decreased, with copper and zinc remaining the same. After the break, we look at tomorrow's weather. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's get into your weather forecast. It's hot in the north, with Enana and Oshakati reaching 35 and 33 degrees respectively. Hobabis feels the chill with a minimum of 8 degrees Celsius. Still sunny along the coast, with Henties Bay, Swakopmund and Walvish Bay enjoying maximum temperatures of 27, 26 and 27 degrees respectively. There is more press freedom in the Seychelles than in the world's most economically powerful nations, according to a new report from Reporters Sans Frontières. And 7 African nations enjoy more press freedom than the United States, Italy and Japan. More on that in international news after the break.
Go far with Paratus. Go further with Paratus Fiber. Paratus, offering high-speed, reliable fiber connectivity, starting from only 599 Namibian dollars per month. Unlimit your lifestyle and visit na.paratus.africa for more information.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Now in international news, we take stock of press freedom in Africa. There is more press freedom in the Seychelles than in the world's most economically powerful nations, according to a new report from Reporters Sans Frontières. And 7 African nations enjoy more press freedom than the United States, Italy, and Japan. RSF is a Paris-based non-profit founded by journalists which promotes freedom of information and has been publishing its World Press Freedom Index since 2002. This year's annual ranking of 180 countries, according to the ability of journalists to report freely on their countries, shows that while no African nation is among the 8 countries where the state of press freedom is good, none of the G7 grouping of nations fall into that category either. The 2022 index judges press freedom as satisfactory in 7 African nations. Seychelles ranked 13 in the world, Namibia ranked 18th, South Africa 35th, Cape Verde 36th, Cote d'Ivoire 37th, Burkina Faso 41st, Sierra Leone 46th. Now, at the bottom and end of the index, 3 African countries are among the 28 across the world where press freedom faces very serious threats, which are Eritrea in the 179th place, Djibouti in 176, and Egypt at 168. Only in North Korea is there less freedom than in Eritrea. The Reporters Sans Frontières Index ranks the state of press freedom in 5 categories: good, satisfactory, problematic, difficult, and very serious. Outside Europe, only Costa Rica in Central America enjoys the top ranking. Most African nations fall into the problematic and difficult groups. RSF defines press freedom as the ability of journalists as individuals and collectives to select, produce, and disseminate news in the public interest, independent of political, economic, legal, and social interference, and in the absence of threats to their physical and mental safety. Now, after the break, we'll look at Beatrice Masilingi, who unfortunately picked up an injury over the weekend at Gaborone Meet, and other stories in your sports. Thank you for staying with Sunset News. Let's dive straight into your sports story updates. Beatrice Masilingi picked up an injury over the weekend at the Gaborone Meet, but her coach Henk Botha says it's a minor tear in the hamstring and that she will undergo scans today and rest until she has recovered. Athletics Namibia President Ervin Naimwaka expressed happiness with the way Namibian athletes performed at the one-day international championship held over the weekend in Gaborone, Botswana. The Gaborone International Meet, which attracted athletes from over 10 countries across the globe, is a World Athletics Continental Tour that is classified in the bronze category and was held on Saturday at the National Stadium. With a third of the year already over, Namibia is preparing for what is likely to be the biggest esports season in the country yet. This year, the Namibian Electronic Sports Association, NESA, will be hosting national qualifiers for 6 game titles, all selected by the International Esports Federation for the 2022 World Esports Championships. And for a twist, for the first time, mobile games are involved. Once again, powered by Logitech, NESA starts the search for the next Namibian esports team to compete in the African Regional Games for a chance to wear the Namibian colors in Bali, Indonesia at the WE Championships in November, December. NESA is especially looking for female CSGO athletes as the WE Championship will feature the first CSGO tournament this year. The first qualifier tournament is on 7 May. The City of Windhoek Volleyball Club went down 3-0 against Commerce Nampo in a match that was the highlight of the Central Volleyball Association League this weekend. The CVA hosted its matches on Saturday at the Patrick Iyambo Police College and the University of Namibia courts. Your highlights follow after this short break. Thank you for staying with us through the last half hour. Let's get into the highlights from today's broadcast. The Landless People's Movement's application to the High Court for the annulment of a default judgment in favor of 2 party members and former councillors of the Mariento City Council was rejected on Friday. The Namibian Defence Force is on a mission to strengthen institutional mechanisms to address gender inequalities within its ranks, as well as increase the involvement of women at all decision-making levels, peace processes and conflict resolutions. And the City of Windhoek Volleyball Club went down 3-0 against Commerce Nampo in a match that was the highlight of the Central Volleyball Association League this weekend. The CVA hosted its matches on Saturday at the Patrick Iyambo Police College and the University of Namibia courts. And with that, we have come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all the NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as our website, oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 94 every weekday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. I am Ashwin Berry. This has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.